So I'm just going to address this very quickly. One of you guys made a real valid point yesterday. Could I please say good afternoon instead of good morning? Because by the time you get to watch this video, it is the afternoon. So good afternoon, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Bareham Engines. Right, so we're just about to install the Cosworth head onto the bottom end. This is the one that we were waiting for the spring bases for, and also the collets that we were missing. And I didn't realise how rare the spring bases had become, but we've got them now, we've got everything in, new set of hydraulics, but I just want to show you before we install the last one of these. Now this is the oil way bung, or one of them. We've got 4 of these, so you've got one here, and then 2 on the other side. And what they do is they just bung up the oil gallery that goes either side through the head, and it feeds the hydraulic lifters and also the cam bearings up through here, and it's obviously fed up through the cylinder head about here. So what we always do, obviously once we've stripped and cleaned and done all our work on the head, we remove these bungs and we make sure that these oil jackets all the way through both sides are very, very clean. And also what you find is on the end of these little plugs you get a build-up of crud and carbon and crap and old oil and that, so you've got to make sure these are clean. So what we do when we install them is we put a little bit of Haldite around the thread, and then we just put them in there tight. And what the Haldite does is, these are a tapered plug, but it just ensures if any oil does creep past there, it's going to stop that. And it just stops any external leaks. So we'll get this last one in and then we'll go about getting the cylinder head on. Right guys, thumbnail and title time. One of my channels that I watch on YouTube is these Pakistanis building big truck engines basically. You've probably seen them. There's one channel hosted by called Pakistani Truck, something like that. So I've been watching them videos lately. They absolutely fascinate me. And funnily enough, I've had 2 or 3 comments and a couple of emails saying, can I sort of do a reaction video to one of these videos? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do exactly that, just to one of the videos that I actually watched last night. The title is Completely Destroyed Euro Engine, so it's a big Euro 6-cylinder, like a Cummins type sort of engine really, cast iron head, cast iron bottom end. Fully finished top hat liners by the looks of it, and they're just going about sort of stripping it, machining it, and then reassembling it really. But obviously the conditions that they work in are probably not ideal, but to be honest with you, with the tooling that they've got, the work ethic is pretty good, I would say. You know, they seem to work hard, these guys. It's just a little bit different to what we're used to. So I don't know about the copyright and all this, so I'm not going to play the video on here. I'm just going to play it on my computer here and stick a couple of snapshots up that I've took from the video just to sort of show you which bits I'm talking about. So we'll just play this one now. So first of all, this guy is sort of stripping down the cylinder head, taking off the water jackets and all that, and he's going to start taking the valves out. So first of all, they're working on a dusty ground really. Not ideal, oil all over the place, and but which bit amazes me is you've got this effing great cylinder head which he's stripping, leaned up against something, and he's got a pair of flip-flops on, which unless you're wearing steel toe caps, I know trainers and what have you ain't going to do you any good anyway, but it's just the exposed toes, you know. So next bit, they're machining the cylinder block. So they've obviously got it all stripped here, got the liners out and what have you, and they're actually facing it on this machine here, which is a bit like that grinder that I showed you a couple of videos ago that we've got. So it's got the grinding stones in. So that's a pretty good machine. So obviously these guys have managed to get some pretty decent equipment. So I've got no problem whatsoever with that. And matey there's stripping the cylinder head. In that one, you can see that he's obviously hitting some guides out. He's using a tool similar to what we use. He's holding it with some pliers, which is ideal. But as you can see, he's hitting a steel bar to hit the guides out with a steel sledgehammer. Now that in my eyes is a complete no-no. In fact, I did that years ago when I was a bit of an apprentice to John here. And because you've got hard steel hitting steel, it managed to shatter the end of the tool and went right in my hand. And I don't know whether you can see that, but you've got that scar there and you've also got that one there. It basically shattered, went into my hand. I had a piece of metal in here and I also had one up here. Well, in fact, I had two there and I had to have an operation. So they went in there, into the palm of my hand, also in there, got the metal out, but there is actually still one piece in there that they wouldn't get out. They said it was too sort of dodgy. I was awake when they did it under anaesthetic, and I tell you what, that was painful. So I always use now either a bronze bar with a steel hammer or a bronze hammer or a copper mallet with a steel bar. Never do that because that's proper dodgy. So he's hitting the guides out now. He's sort of cleaning up where he's going to put the new valve seat inserts in, and they've got a tool. Actually, it's a pretty good tool that they've got. If you can see that, it's like a sort of helps you, I suppose, hit the valve seats in square. That's a pretty good tool. I could do one of them myself. But again, he's hitting the steel thing with a big steel sledgehammer. Ugh. Next one, you see this guy here. He's cutting the. It looks like he's cutting the 45-degree angle. But no, the only trouble is with that is he's doing that on like a vertical mill with a floating bed by the looks of it. And we've got one of those machines. The only trouble is with that, although he has got the guide, the pilot that's going down the guide to really help him, it doesn't really work that well. It still moves. That's why on our Centronic, the head has got a magnetic base that sort of clamps to the cylinder head and doesn't allow it to move. So if there's any sort of irregular sort of misshaping in the valve seat or it's offset, all that will do is will just follow the inconsistency of the seat rather than cut it absolutely true to the guide. So that's not ideal in my eyes. So next you can see he's using a grinding machine with an angle grinder to grind in, well, I suppose he's lapping in those valve seats, but as I say, with our Centronic you don't have to do that, so it's almost like he's just trying to sort of grind them true. But if it works for them guys. It's, there's different methods, I don't know. So they're putting the valves in now, and he's actually got a feeler gauge and he's measuring the height of the valves in comparison to the cylinder head, which and that grinding tool, I think if the valves need to go lower, he just grinds them lower, but it sort of almost defeats the object of cutting them, I suppose. But I don't know. Whatever works. There seem to be, they're washing the heads and that pretty good. Although I don't know where all that oil and that's going, if that's going straight down the drain. Now next thing, you've got Matey installing the crank bearings in the crank. They've got, it's the dusty floor. It's the dusty floor that does it for me. I mean, you've only got to get a little bit of breeze, which you probably don't get much of out there, but a bit of breeze and all that dust is in your bearings. Not ideal in my eyes. But do you know what? I do have to admire their work ethic. I mean, they ain't too worried about putting hard graft in here. And everything, in fairness to them, although the floor's all a bit dusty and they ain't, they're not working on a clean bench, they're outside here putting a crankshaft in the dust, but it all does look pretty clean. They do make sure the internals of the engine are as clean as they could possibly get them in the conditions, I suppose. Not yet seen any sort of torque wrench used. It just seems to be big bars and big guys. Oh, he's put a steel hammer in the crank and crankcase there to stop it moving while he does up the flywheel. Probably not ideal using the steel, but never mind. But this is the one I like. This here, where they're lapping in the valves of the cylinder head, and there's 3 boys lapping at the same time on the same head. I mean, fair play to them. I can just imagine me, Isaac and Paul on one cylinder head doing that. I like this guy here, this one. This one, I don't know what he's doing. He's got like a leaf blower on the cylinder head. Don't quite know what he's doing with that, bless him. But yeah, that's it guys, only a short one really. What I shall probably do is, if you want me to sort of do a little reaction video to any of these sorts of things, yeah, just let me know and I'll willingly do it. But yeah, fair play to these guys. They're making use of what they got and the conditions they're in, and it looks, at the end of the day, it doesn't look a bad product. And they've obviously got some decent tooling by the looks of it. So yeah, and more to the point, they get hell of a views on their YouTube channel with this. So yeah, feel free to comment, guys, down below, and let me know what you think on that. Right, so this is the bottom end of the Cosy block. As you can see, this is the one we put the ductile iron liners in. Got all our piston protrusions correct. But the only problem is with these Cosworth blocks is there's no holes for dowels, so you can't put dowels, the cylinder head on with dowels. So what you have to do is make sure that the head gasket's nice and central, and try not to disturb it when you put the head on. It's rather difficult, but you've usually got about 1 millimetre aside on the head gasket anyway. And we normally find once the bolts are in, or even a couple of bolts, once the head's on, if you pull the head gasket over to the exhaust side, which is this side, it's normally pretty central then. So we're just going to get the head bolts and pop the head on. As you can see, guys, got the cylinder head on the bottom end now, and that is looking very, very pretty indeed. So what we've got here is, in fact, pretty much all we've got. The pulleys I've just blasted and give those a lick of paint. We're not going to go as far as plating those, because this is just a standard build and this is all going to be under the cover, but he does want it looking fairly nice. But thinking back to when we got this, guys, all we got was a bare block and a cylinder head partially sort of built up. When I say that, I mean as far as got the cams in and the caps on, but that was about it. So I've had to supply all the valves for this. The customer did send over a bag of bits, like springs and what have you. The springs are actually right, but everything else was wrong. So we've had to put spring bases and the lot in this one. All the gubbins on the end here he did have. I've obviously cleaned all this up, put new seals in, new O-rings on the outside of these bearings, etc. Cleaned the cams up. New set of hydraulics that have gone in there. We've put half of the exhaust studs were missing, put those in. New water pump, obviously. We've supplied the crank, H-section rods, original Marler pistons with their own cutouts. So yeah, that is pretty much all we've got, guys. The customer said he's got the manifolds, he's going to sort those out. He's got to get a rocker cover, a sump, and all the relevant bits to go with it. So these front covers here, so the auxiliary shaft and the crank seal housing, we haven't got that. We've got to try and get hold of that. Whether he wants to do that or he wants me to get that, I don't know. But yeah, we're pretty much there with this, guys. I've just torqued the cams down, wait for those pulleys to dry, and I can get those on, and then I'll give him a ring, really, see whether he wants it back. But yeah, looking a damn sight better than when it come in, and at least he's got pretty much a tall engine there to put all his stuff on. Set of core plugs have got to go in. Apart from that, pretty much there, really. Right, guys, just replying to some of the comments from the last video and some of the other videos regarding these warranty videos we do, and these videos moaning about this, that and the other. I do read through the comments and I get the odd one where it's either people that do or don't own businesses, whether they own a business presently or in the past, retired, etc. And the amount of people that say, I cannot believe how many comebacks you guys have. When I was in business, we only ever had 1 or 2 comebacks. Now, you've got to bear in mind, guys, that we run a YouTube channel as well as an engineering shop now. I think you'll find that our channel is one of the only ones, definitely, that I've seen that tells you the good, the bad, the ugly of running a business, the ins and outs. I think it does seem to me a little bit like some people are just flicking through our thumbnails and titles, not really watching the videos, and then commenting saying they can't believe how many comebacks we have. If you actually watch the videos, a lot of the time it turns out it's either somebody trying it on, or even if it is a warranty claim, it turns out that it isn't really our fault in the end of it. But if it is our fault, then we own up to it and we get it sorted. You know, everyone's human. And none of us are perfect, even though some people do portray to be perfect in their videos and what have you. We're all certainly not, and we're all in this game together. So we're just honest, But as I say, if you do watch the videos, most of the time it's not even down to us. That's what makes it entertaining. And as far as the thumbnails and titles go, guys, you know, we've got to make them clicky, haven't we, really, for you to click on them and enjoy the videos. It's what everyone seems to do. But there's nothing in those thumbnail and titles that isn't in the video. Wherever we put it, in the beginning, the middle, or the end of the video, there's always something to do with it in there. But it's very difficult when we're running a business. At the end of the day, we're doing 3 videos a week. We're trying to entertain you guys and give you a good sort of indication of what it's actually like to run a business, as well as the interesting stuff about what we actually do. So, yeah, sorry guys if you think that, and you think that, you know, you've never had any comebacks. But if you actually think back, you more than likely probably have. But yeah, there we go. Just thought I would address that one, guys, and just let you know that I do read those comments, so please keep them coming, the good or the bad. We really appreciate them. This is the 20 valve cylinder head that I've completed last week. I didn't realise until we'd actually finished it, I think Isaac gave it a skim, but there was a little bit of corrosion around this area here, and you see a bit like that, but slightly worse really. And it wasn't until I went and got a head gasket that I realised that the head gasket does come up probably pretty much about 1 millimetre to the edge of this water jacket. So I thought we'd better get that carved out and welded up. We've done that on these 2 ends, 1 and 4. It's not bad enough to get involved with these 2. I've just give that a very light lick, and that one is all ready to go back to the customer now. Right guys, so before next video, I'm going to have a little bit of a change around in here, because as you can see, we've got stuff all over the place. We're inundated with work, as you know, so I'm going to have a little jiggery around tonight, I think. I can't do it much in the day because I'm just too busy doing work, so I'm going to stay on tonight and I'm going to have a good sort out around here. Now, my plan is, for the time being, obviously we've got the cylinder head area here, which I've started to clean up and just have a little think on what I'm going to do. Now, obviously, that bench in the middle we've been using for another engine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this out to here. I'm going to move the toolbox over there and sort of cordon this area off. So we've got the 3 bays here. I'm going to try and make another 1 or 2 bays here for the time being. I am going to, there's not a lot I can do with the cleaning area until we get rid of that washing machine, and same with the in and out work. But this area here is really bothering me. What I want to try and do, as you can see, I've cleaned that bench off this morning. Now that is quite a big bench, so I'm going to take the vices off that bench, and I'm going to probably put them round there, so John can use them when he's doing the heads and whatever. Then this big bench here I'm going to pull out. The ramp we don't use much at the minute, so I'm probably going to bring the bench right out up to here and sort of cordon the bench off into 4 sections. They're still going to probably be about the size of one of these benches. We're going to have a clean out underneath there, and then, as I say, we can have 4 engines around that bench to basically strip. So this obviously being in the dirty area, we can strip 4 engines on that bench, ready to all be cleaned and blasted or what have you. Then they can be moved over here. So basically this area here, for the time being, will only be clean engines ready to be assembled. So we'll probably have 4, maybe 5 engines here. We'll have 4 engines over here being stripped, and then we'll have, I think, because we're not using the ramp anymore, we're just going to have to sort of store the engines around this area that are waiting to be done. But hopefully, if we can get 4 on the strip and then 4 on the build, we're not going to have this build-up of engines waiting to be done, because this is no good whatsoever. I'm sitting on the floor. That is my thoughts for tonight, guys. That's probably what I'm going to do. Let's see how it pans out. But in the meantime, thank you very much for watching this video, guys. Remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and yeah, let's hopefully see some changes in the next video. Take care, guys.